Hello and welcome to another wonderful presentation brought to you by EGX Digital, part of a 9-day, 24-hour-a-day game extravaganza as PAX Online and EGX Digital. Go to paxegx.com to see more wonderful things. I am Alice Bell. I'm here to talk to you today from rockpapershotgun.com, the best PC gaming website in the known universe. And what better way to promote PC games and PC gaming than with a favorite of PC gamers, which is City Builders. And I'm very excited to be joined today from Polymorph Games by Philippe Dion, the CEO and creative director, and Andy Ashton, the wonderful community manager, to talk about Foundation, which is a city builder I am tremendously excited about. It's been in early access for about a year, and we're going to see a bit of it in action now, talk a bit about it, and learn about some of the updates coming up. So, Phil, could you give us maybe a bit of a kind of elevator pitch on what Foundation is?
All right. Hi, everyone. Yes, Foundation is it's a fantastic medieval city builder on PC that is putting emphasis on the organic shapes and looks of medieval cities. So basically, there's no grid in Foundation, so it's entirely organic, and the goal is to recreate like credible medieval cities that you could possibly imagine.
It's super fun. I love it. I've been writing about it for a while on RPS. So I guess the first thing to ask is why you decided to wanted to make a city builder. Is it just a genre that you love?
Yes, I've been playing city builders since I'm a kid. So I started with SimCity, the first one, and I never stopped playing all the city builders out there. So I really like SimCity, all the impression games like Pharaoh, Caesar, and Zeus, Master of Olympus. Mm-hmm. So those games were incredible. I also play a lot of the old Settlers 1 and 2, and especially the third one that I really loved. And of course, the Anno series that was one of my best city builder. Like probably Dawn of Discovery was my favorite one, which is in Europe. I think it's Anno 1404. If I'm right.
I did wonder if Settlers was an inspiration, because I do get quite a strong Settlers vibe from Foundation.
Yeah, exactly. Settlers. The one I played most was the first one and the third one, but the first one was about making like seeing all those settlers delivering goods and materials to build your city. So and I was always like trying to make the more dense town center I could. So I really love doing that.
But a lot of those games that you mentioned they have grids, so why did you decide to go gridless? That's quite a kind of a bold decision.
Yes. Well, it's kind of something I always wanted to do, because like my hometown, I try to reproduce it in SimCity, for instance. But in my hometown, there's a lot of winding roads, and it was like impossible to. And I was very frustrated with that. And medieval cities were not built on grids too, like modern urbanization. So when I was saying games like Anno, Banish, for instance, they are built on grids, I thought it was missing the medieval look of organic layout. So that's how we decided, Leo and I. Leo is my associate. He's the technical director. So we are building our own engine. So we knew that we could develop the technology to do that. So that was one element that was added to our decision to make a gridless city builder.
It's very, it's quite European, isn't it, that sort of style? Because in America, all their cities are straight lines and blocks. And
my hometown is an exception, because we are in Canada, in Quebec. And in my hometown, they built like this huge industrial complex. So they had to develop the whole city at once. And the founder of the city wanted to make a layout of street that will spell his name. So it's maybe the exception in America, but because it's all like grids, streets.
Well, now might be a good time to throw to Ash, who has been working very hard. He's been building a nice little hamlet to have a look at. Hi, Ash. How are you getting on?
Oh, yeah, good. We just started building it up. Actually, it's a perfect time. I've just got my first promotion, which is what I've been just trying to run towards, because I kind of wanted to sort of show a little bit about the promotion side of things as well. Yeah, we've got a couple of production chains running already with just to meet the villagers' basic needs.
Should we have a little look around? What have you named your hamlet? Has it got a...
I haven't. No, that comes later. I've got to, you've got to get the idea of what it's going to be called. It's not going to get named right at the start. We'll figure it out. But usually Ashington or something like that is what it'll be called. Most likely.
Yeah, I go with Aliceburg, Alvania.
Yeah.
So when you start building a town, Ash, do you kind of have a set strategy, or do you change it up a bit every time? Do you like being a bit more organic with it?
I mean, the game is organic, so I try to vary it up. But the thing is, with most city builders, right at the start of the game, you're kind of limited to the resources that are on the map. So there's always going to be a slightly narrowed route right at the start, but each map has so many different tiles that you can start on that there isn't really a strategy. You've got to think about efficiencies. It's not like any normal city builder where, one of this building equals two of that building in production chains. It's all based on work times and things like that. So the further a villager lives away from their workplace, the less efficient they're going to be. So you do have to think about these things. You're setting it up, starting up like the foundation, pun intended, for your actual city and your village as it grows. So yeah, you're always thinking just like, where am I going to fit everything? Where are the resources? Where am I going to move to? Because something we've added recently, for instance, is these deposits here. And to start with, you don't know what they are. And they're random on the map when the map starts, so you don't know what's going to be in those. So you've got to think like, am I going to start to go, move towards these and expand towards these new deposits to find out what they are as quick as possible? So yeah, there's loads of different strategies, and myself, it's just how I'm feeling on the day, where I'm going to go. So, and it is so organic. It's easy to do anything you want, pretty much.
We can see the town centre, which is always the starting point there.
Yes, a little village centre just here.
It's been there for a while in the game, in this one.
Yeah.
The unlimited supply amount of crates.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never disappear. Even if they're empty, they just stay there.
One of the things I really like is you mentioned distances from work and stuff. I really like the way paths and roads form based on where your villagers need to go.
A very, very important feature for us to have those dynamic path tracing. It's still something that we plan to tweak, but it was a big part of the game.
Were there any kind of problems in implementing that? Was it a difficult system to get working kind of properly?
Oh yes, Leo could talk to you about this, because the one thing about this is how can you recreate a credible path, credible roads. So you need to think like someone walking. So will he go up the slope, or will he walk around because the slope is too steep? So it's something that is hard to reproduce by code, but we did some experimentation, and we're kind of at a point where we're pretty satisfied with it, but we might tweak it a little bit later on, of course.
Yeah, no, it's just little things like that I really love. And Ash, you mentioned the promotion as well, which is a really interesting feature that got added in, I think it was not the last update, but the one before.
Yeah, that's right. We there were promotions in the game way back, but it all happened automatically. You didn't really think about it. You just met the villagers' needs. The villagers upgraded to the higher statuses, and the houses updated too. But it was all that completely hands off. But we want to give the player more interaction and let them choose when they want to promote the players. Sorry, the villagers, not the players. So yeah, we added it in recently to give a bit more of an option on how you want to grow your village. You might, for instance, want to try and get all stone houses and go for an all commoner village, because as they upgrade, so they'll start off as newcomers, they won't need a house, but they'll need food and water. Then they upgrade to the commoner level, and they'll then need a house, and they'll need to meet their service needs as well, fulfill their service needs, which is a church. So as they progress through the levels, they'll start to have more needs. And similarly, as they go up to a commoner level, their house will upgrade to a stone house. And if you want certain areas to be stone houses, so you want the main village center, you can try and get all your commoners in that village or city center as it grows. So the idea really was to give more control to the player, and let them choose more of how those kind of things are going to work.
And it's something that was thought as something that will evolve in the future, because now in Foundation we're putting all the small puzzle pieces, developing all those systems, and in the future update we will add we plan to add a lot of strategies. So and the player will have total control on how he wants to develop his cities. For example, if we want to add a challenge to keep your city with surf only and doing a small low density village, then he will need to use strategy not to upgrade his villager too high. But there will be consequences to that as well. So it's always a matter of pros and cons of your choices.
PC gamers love giving themselves weird challenges like that, so I'm sure that will be well received. But that I found with that update, it really changed the pace of the game for me in a good way. It kind of made me think a lot more about the housing and where I was going to put housing and the kind of whole makeup of my town. But you can see in Ash's town, people are starting to sort of build their houses. They've because that all happens organically as well, doesn't it? You designate an area for housing, and then they just kind of fit themselves in around that.
That's right. Yeah, that was one of the real organic features that Phil and Leo decided on right at the start. That the housing wouldn't be placed by the player. The housing is still work in progress. We've still got more to do for the housing. Phil could probably explain it a little bit better than I could with the housing, but as you can probably see in the game at the moment, I've just upgraded or promoted a load of villagers. So now there's about 20 odd houses all waiting to be built right now. But we've got the nice straw houses here. Later on, like I said before, they'll upgrade to the stone houses. But yeah, it's all.
And one funny fact with this is that the housing is automated by the villagers, but the first thing we tried in Foundation was for the workplaces as well. So villager would establish their workplaces themselves depending on the desirability of the area.
Oh, really?
So we tried this. Yes, at first we have a prototype, and we realized it was not that fun, because you remove something that is interesting for the player, like you remove something he can control. So we decided to just do only the housing. So it's a good balance between something that you can control and something you control. So I think both of those two things are working pretty well in Foundation.
What I do love about the buildings as well, like the housing, you can see at the moment, they've all got construction steps, so everything goes up in pieces, and it just gives it that real authentic feel that they're actually building it right in front of you, which is lovely.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love seeing them all sort of. I like to imagine them having little petty disputes between like fence boundaries and stuff as well, just like in the real world. Ash mentioned as well, one of the needs for villages is so you have food and water, but also old time religion. You have to have church services as well, which I think is a really kind of interesting way to make it feel very medieval. And I wanted to ask a bit more why you decided to go with a medieval setting rather than maybe something more modern or even futuristic or fantastical.
I'm a big fan of the medieval era, so it's always something. I always wanted to do some game in the medieval era. So yeah, I think maybe for us North American, castle and medieval cities is something that we don't have access to. So I always have been pretty interested in this. So when I visited France, Italy, I went to visit like all those castle and medieval village. So it's really something that I love personally. So and with the organic setting, I think it fits pretty well with medieval game. But Foundation is medieval, but it's in the future, maybe who knows? Maybe we'll explore other eras, but we're not there yet.
I mean, did you do kind of a lot of research and going to locations and stuff as well?
Yes, we did. We did some researches, but it's never like complete. So we try to be as much accurate as possible. But it's at the end it's a game, so sometimes we have to choose between feature and being accurate with the medieval era. And as the project moves forward, we also get some more documentation. We buy some books. It's hard to find good documentation about medieval era on the internet. Like all you find is about Minecraft when you search about medieval. So of course you can remove those when searching, but it's hard to have very accurate documentation. And for instance, when I went in France, I visited some small monastery, and there I found some very good books about monks' life, and but that I couldn't find elsewhere. So it's something that we need to keep searching for good documentation.
It's just such a cool kind of representation of the. I mean, it's a beautiful game as well to look at, and I suppose you have to carefully balance, a realistic representation of medieval times with actually it being a fun game. Because
a fun game, and yeah. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, because I mean, actually living in the medieval era wouldn't have been that fun. So.
No, of course. And there's this thing about Foundation. We want it to be very like relaxing and unstressful, like very immersive. But like you play this to just relax and enjoy, like seeing your city live. So of course we're developing more the beautiful side of or romantic aspect of medieval.
I think that was one of the things that really struck us at RPS when we first started playing it, is that it's so relaxing and just lovely, and it just seems impossible to make a town that isn't also lovely to look at and just nice to watch. I mean, you can see, the trees waving in the wind and the fish, jumping in the water, and everything is just so lovely.
Yeah, I think a lot of players, like majority, feels they understand this aspect, this relaxing aspect, and they appreciate it. It's it's something we need to be aware of, because if we want to have, like, the next steps is to add some kind of challenge to the game, but at the same time we don't want to lose this relaxing experience. So we don't want to stress the player too much if he doesn't want to. So that's something we were very careful about.
So Ash he's got some fishing set up as well now. It might be good if you could maybe show us maybe a simple supply chain, Ash, because they get quite a bit more complicated later on.
Yeah, they do indeed. I just finished doing a couple of fishing huts, but I also wanted to show a little bit of the sort of the intricacies of the game. So, for example, with well, I'll come back to the fishing huts, but I mean the basic, the really easy production line. Simplest is the berries. I mean, right now the berries are being gathered. They're actually deplete. So as they get taken off the berry bushes, the bushes will deplete. These villagers will keep taking them. They'll take them to their gathering hut, which will then get transported to this granary. This is where everything gets stored. So we've got here, we're already storing some fish. We just brought some fish over. But yeah, we've got berries in here, and from there they'll go on to the marketplace, where this little guy down here is calling his wares, letting everyone know he's selling his berries and fish. That's that's the first sort of goal right at the start of the game, is to get that food running. So that's probably one of the most simplest of production lines. But there is a little trick you can do as well, is if you want to move things larger distances, for instance, these fish coming in here, they'll be stored in this granary, which is fairly normal. We've just got them set to accept here. But if we want them to move over here, because eventually we'll put another marketplace here that's selling fish, so we want everyone to go there. But we don't want everyone traveling too far to get the goods. So in this granary, we can actually set this slot to fish and set it to stock maximum, which will actually allow the fish to be taken from any other warehouse. If you haven't got it set to stock maximum, they won't take from warehouses, only production lines. So it frees up the fishermen, frees up the whole line, basically, so everything gets moved along by the transporters, which is a really useful little feature. We've also got a slightly more complicated line going over here. It's still pretty simple. We've got I've actually merged two lumber camps together, so it doesn't look like too many buildings. I've put them both together there. The lumber camp there will then cut down the trees, and this is done similar to housing with an extraction tool, which you can use for berries, for stone, and for all the trees. So the woodcutters know where then to go in and cut down those trees. The green there is the housing, which you mentioned earlier.
And these, you literally you just paint those on where you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Them to be designated. Yeah.
I want to see what we've got on this little group of trees here, which has just been missed. I can't do it. So it's not in my territory. But these trees here, I want to take. I can choose to say that's where the next the trees will be taken from. However, they will take it closest to them with the woodcutters. So if I get rid of that, then they can quite easily go over here. But yeah, it's as simple as just painting down the zones that you want. You can see we've got more zones that we can paint as well here. Later on, we can reforest, so we can put those trees back if we want to. But yeah, the woodcutters take the wood, which you've designated with the painting zone. That then can go to a warehouse. It doesn't have to go to a warehouse in this case. It could go straight to our carpenter here in the sawmill, where that'll get turned into planks, which we can use for some of the later buildings, such as the warehouse itself. That requires planks to be built, if I remember correctly. So you need to get these sort of set up fairly quickly in the early stages. And like you say, later on, they get more complicated with things like tools and weapons that you can make, where there's a lot more resources being dragged in to make that the next secondary resource, which can then be used. So for instance, iron comes in as iron ore, then you smelt it to iron with coal and things, and then eventually make weapons and tools out of it. So yeah, there's there's complicated production lines as well as the simple stuff right at the start of the game. So keeps you challenged as you're moving along.
I did want to ask just for myself as well, because I wrote an article complaining that I had loads of bread, but my villagers would not eat the bread and were just shoveling cold berries into their mouths and getting increasingly furious at me. And then you, Ash, got in touch with me very kindly to tell me that I had stockpiled bread, thus making it forbidden to the villagers to eat it. And then in an update quite soon after that, if you stockpiled something, a big exclamation mark was next to it if you stockpiled it. And I just wanted to check, was that added specifically because of me?
Yes.
It was, yeah.
My legacy.
Yes.
Yeah, Phil and I, we saw your article, and Phil was like, Ash, can you get in touch with Alice?
When I saw the screenshot with the golden number, I said, "Oh no, it's stockpiled," and
so
you don't explain it enough.
So yeah, the week after, Phil's right. We're putting in a warning in there to make this a little bit easier. So that was because of you.
I am ashamed.
No. It's very awful because the UI and the UX is like at small.
Well, I mean, we can talk a little bit about the UI a bit later because there are some exciting updates coming there as well. But maybe now is the time that we can move to a later save and talk a bit more about what you can do in late game Foundation and maybe what the community has been doing as well. Because you've been in early access for about a year now, is that right?
A year and a half, yes. Like February 2019.
All right. So, wow. I mean, there's a lot going on here. I can see buildings off in the hills in the distance. There's a castle, a whole ass castle up there. So we've got a lot going on here. And I think this is really showing off the kind of, while you can, leave your villagers to sort of do a lot of cool stuff by themselves, you can also, if you want to, get really detailed into building where the walls are, where all the kind of the big impressive buildings are. And so one of the really cool features about Foundation is that you have very granular kind of control over the building of churches, your manor house, your castles. So maybe, Phil, if you could tell us a bit more about that system and what kind of inspired you to go in that direction.
Yeah, it all started with the intention of allowing the player to make unique creation, because like if you visit a medieval town in France or Italy, each town has its own church, castle, walls, and they don't look the same. So this is where the monument system is started. So we wanted to allow the player to give him the power to create his own unique monuments. So every major buildings in the game, the manor house, the tavern, the monastery, the player will be able to assemble it from building parts that we have pre-designed. So you can decide the scale, the height of a tower, the rotation, the position, and he can also decide what functionality one room will have on his monument. So I think it's one of the major feature of the game is you being able to make unique creation for major monuments.
So yeah, it's not like you just say, I'm going to build a Colosseum now and you slap down that, like when in Foundation, when you build a castle, you build that castle, yes,
exactly.
So you can see Ash has got a very lovely symmetrical cathedral that he's built. It's beautiful.
I love symmetry. Yeah, it's always got to be symmetrical.
So can you sort of demonstrate how the system kind of works? Slap an unsymmetrical nave on your cathedral.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll show you one of the monastery. I've got a little spot that I kind of picked out where I wanted to put a monastery, and it's the perfect spot. So I'll show you with that. But yeah, all these buildings. I mean, this is the tavern down here. If we just pull in, it's one of my favourite buildings, to be honest, and it's all made out of separate bits, even down to the dormer windows here. You place those yourself. Yeah, really, really cool. So yeah, if I just nip through the town. I've just started setting up on this island. I've started to work on the individual food chains and things as well over here, because you don't want people walking right across the city to get the food and the water. So just pretty much finished that in a church over here. Anyway, so yes, in the menu here we've got monuments, and I was going to say I hope I've got the monastery unlocked, but here's the monastery. So you start out with just like your marker stick to where you're going to start placing your building, your monument, and then when you drop that, you can see there's a huge amount of options. There's further options down the bottom, which is something new, which is a masterpiece, which you can add into the monuments now. But we might talk about that later on. But yeah, each one of these pieces can be put down separately. So you have to have some pieces. So for instance, I've got to have one abbey part here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that because I don't need it anymore. And then let's say, we're going to have a second dormitory style building we can pop in. I'm just going to chuck that down separately. Let's make this abbey a little bit bigger because it's a little bit small at the moment. But you can build them together like this, but then we can also raise them. So we can got a little bit more customization to the buildings as well. We've got our own door here. And each, you can see these white nodes here. This is where all the parts will connect to each other. And you can also unsnap them. So if I were to take, let's say this dormitory style building on the back here, it will snap to the actual building. And it will snap to any of these points. But if I want to, and this is the creative side of Foundation, which is amazing for me. It really, before I was a community manager, it's what kind of sparked my attention. But you can hit in T or the little chat box here. We can turn that off, and then there's no collision. We can create however we want to. So let's, for instance, get a tower in here. So normally with the attach, it will just attach to all these points. Take that off, bring it up, but we can actually stick it anywhere we want to inside this building, and it just makes it so creative. Yeah, it's my favorite thing, making these monuments as big as you want to. And then yeah, there's all sorts of extra bits we've got here, so we can make a cloister, attach that to the wall here, and turn it around, and yeah, just basically keep going, and you can make them as big as you want. But you do have to think as well about the actual costs of these things. For instance, my church that we saw earlier on, the big church, that has a very big maintenance. We've probably got a little bit of balancing to do for that as well. But you can see the upfront costs, how much resources it's going to take to create this. But you also see how much it's actually going to cost in maintenance per week. And also the size of it, and the size affects things like congregation size in the churches. So your size will be directly related to how many people can actually fit in that church, because you've got to make sure you've got enough for everybody, because they all like to go to church at the same time. But yeah, sorry.
Listen, I was just going to say the cost is future Ash's problem. Current Ash is just having a blast building his monasteries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who cares? But yeah, we can also change the color of. We've got different themes for different buildings. So the monastery's got a few different themes. You can't really see it properly in the blueprint mode, but once it's built, which won't happen now, unfortunately, it takes quite a while to build some of these things. But yeah, so you could have different themes on there as well. But it's just gives you so much option, and it's like I said, it's one thing that really just stood out for me. Other games, games that we kind of mentioned already, but you have set pieces. You'll have a cathedral which will be already built by the devs, and you just plump cathedral down with foundation. You can actually make your own, and it's just it's awesome. I really, really enjoy that part, and being creative.
One of the recent feature we added as well is the capabilities to make paths inside buildings. So maybe Ash, you can talk a bit about it and demonstrate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just get rid of this monastery here.
So the people can pathfind through.
Yeah,
stuff
exactly.
Now.
If you put 2 doors on a building, they can walk through to access like an accessible part of the. Well, for example, if you enclose an area with the walls, they will have access now.
Yeah, exactly. I've built a church here, which I wanted my soldiers to be able to cross this cliff here, or rather than going all the way around, other villagers might go through. So as long as for the church, as long as they need to go to church, they will go inside the church on one side here, and they'll come out of the door up here. Some parts, like the monastery, for instance, they're specific, so only the monks can pass through the monastery. So if I do go back to my monastery over here, if I were to enclose this cloister, that's up here. So we just quickly chuck in a few more cloister parts. Normally, how it was before is they wouldn't have been able to get inside this section that I'm just about to build here. So it was just you could put a well in there or something, or the plants or a beehive, and they just wouldn't be able to get there. But now, as long as there's a door on the outside, and we stick another door on the inside, now the monks will actually be able to get through the building and come out into this cloister area without, even though it's completely enclosed, which is, it's fantastic. And as I said earlier, you can use it to get to inaccessible parts, so they can go up cliffs if in certain situations. It doesn't work for everyone. For instance, the castle that I've built there, which is made all out of vanilla parts, only soldiers can pass through the castle, but you can use that to get to places that you just want only soldiers to go to, which is a really good feature.
And that was a more recent update as well. And in the latest update, Ash mentioned you added mineral deposits, which are the big heaps of rocks that we can see dotted about the map as well. And that you're mining that one there, aren't you, Ash?
Yeah, we've got a quarry. It's just a stone quarry. It was actually quite useful because I was running out of stone to make some of these big monuments pretty quick. And in fact, earlier today, to get this save, I had to create another one a bit further over. But so these guys are mining away. Actually, we don't have anyone mining. We find a nice vein over here. There might be someone. Oh, look,
look at that.
So we've got a gold vein and a marble vein over here, but it seems like nobody wants to work today. Otherwise, we'd see them mining away on there. But it's another new feature that we've added. Whereas, like at the start of the game, you don't know what they are, and you can use the bailiff, who resides in your Lord Manor. And you get mandates. I haven't actually got any, unfortunately, on this save because I've opened them all up. But normally there'd be a list of the deposits that you could send the bailiff off and actually go and find out what's inside that deposit, and then come and report back and tell you what's there, so you can go and mine it. Which again has added a bit more strategy because you don't know exactly where your deposits are going to be right at the start, and you've got to go and find them and search across the map to find the one you want.
Yeah, the latest update also added quite a few bits to do with kind of craftsmanship, I kind of think of it as, and the masterworks and things, which are really fun additions. So you can see one there, that lovely fountain. Do you want to kind of talk a bit about those, Phil, and what they kind of are adding to the game as you get kind of further into your building?
It was to put the emphasis on artisan and the medieval era. So like I don't know in English, a sculptor, someone who makes sculpture.
Sculptor, yeah.
Sculptor, and like painter, or so those artisans that they can create make some unique creations. So it's those masterpieces, they are acquired through some things a player will make during the course of a game, and he will be allowed to create a masterpiece. So it's really like unique creations that give a unique power or buff. We can compare those to like the wonders in civilization. So you can only have one possible, and so one of each masterpiece by city. So
this is a small thing as well, but I love the animations that were added to like the jewelers and I love the animations in the game in general, because you can see like all the villagers at work, making their bread, or they all have really lovely little unique animations. You can see them. Do you have a favorite animation, Phil? A favorite one?
I love them all, but I really loved when we integrated the envoy on the horse. So having the envoy like riding the horse through the town center, I really enjoyed it. They are Michael, who is the animator, is doing an incredible job. Each animation is like, okay, this is my new favorite one. The jeweler one is indeed very, very nice.
It's just incredible, like how close you can zoom in and
see the details. Yes.
Yeah, and see how detailed it all is. Yeah, it's amazing. But you're a small team, and you're in. Like we said, you've been in early access for a little while now. Why did you decide to? This is a question that everyone who does early access gets asked. But why did you decide to do early access?
Yes, first of all, I think this city builder genre is a great fit for early access, because it's not like you're spoiling a narrative game, the first chapter of a narrative game. So we started to build the core of the game, and we wanted to test it, see the reaction of the community, and build around this. So we realized that Foundation is so ambitious. We have great ambition for the game, and even if it's been 1 year and a half that we're in early access, there's still so much to come, and that we're still excited to build. So being in early access is giving us the advantage of being able to support our dev team and expand too, because now we are 12 developers, but we think that the team needs to grow more to support all the features we want to add to this game. So early access is a good fit, and seeing the reaction of the people, they really appreciate, I think, how we handle early access with support and updates we're doing. So we are confident that it was the right choice.
Has it been fun, kind of getting that feedback from the community? Has it been useful and like a good experience? As well?
Yes. I think that the people, one thing that I'm really happy about is, I think the community, they are feeling what the game is about. Like, sometimes people asking us, why is there no combat? But the community answered them, well, it's not a game that is about combat, it's about building, and they really support us on our decision not to add combat in the game. So, and sometimes people are writing us emails with a lot of good suggestion, and we're like, yes, you're right, that this is planned. Yes. So they really understand what the game is about, and the idea they bring is something that is very in line with our vision. So,
Ash, you're community manager. What are some of the kind of crazy things that you've seen the community doing and building and making in Foundation?
Yeah, it's quite interesting that you mentioned earlier about the Colosseum, actually, because with the monuments, somebody actually did recreate the Colosseum, which was absolutely incredible, just putting all the parts together. But recently, obviously, a very, very sad story with the cathedral, with Notre Dame. But we actually, the community had their own kind of out of respect, they wanted to rebuild Notre Dame, so they did it with the parts for the church, and there's just some incredible examples that were out there. Also, the mods, the modding community is incredible, and what they're doing right now, is just amazing. I can show you. This is a community save. I actually spoke to one of the players today. Our Discord is incredible. I mean, we've got such a great community on Discord. They're constantly putting up screenshots, which is absolutely amazing. But this guy put some really cool screenshots up. It's a modded save, so there are mods in here. But what the modding community are doing is absolutely amazing. They're doing such an incredible job with adding assets in here. And as you can see, this is the same map I was playing on. But they've added parts that you can create into harbors. They've actually added boats in here, which is a well-requested feature as well for us. But so they've gone and created some boats. I believe a lot of them are full working parts as well, so they'll actually load the boats up. The boats will move around. Not this one. Wow. This is one of ours. That's ours. But really, really amazing. And zoom out. They've modded this castle here, which is quite incredible.
Whoa!
Get right in here and see what's going on inside this castle. I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, they've just gone to such lengths to make it look good. It's
incredible.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's like Chibi Witcher. Oh, look at that!
But
that's fantastic.
Wow.
So it just shows what can be done with the game and where it's, for instance, we haven't got a castle in the game yet, but maybe one will be made eventually. But but it just shows what can be done on the modding side of it as well. So even as we're adding things in, modders are adding things in. So it just shows what can be done. I'm really, really impressed with this guy. This is John. Apologies if I say it incorrectly, but John Lure done this amazing job building this city up. It's absolutely incredible.
Wow. I've got a long way to go, fellas. I've got a long way to go. I mean, well, talking about, things that maybe you're going to get added in the future, maybe we can talk about plans for future updates. I mean, one of the things that I know is coming is the updated user interface, bit of an updated UI, which you were kind enough to share some screenshots of, some work in progress stuff. How's that coming along?
It's coming along pretty well. It's gonna take a long time, but Daniel, the UI artist, is doing an incredible job of designing all the interface that they are in the game at the moment, and in parallel, the tech team is developing the tools to integrate all those new UI elements. So that Dan can be autonomous in integrating those. So yes, it's going pretty well, but it's going to take a while, I think, because there's so much. But I think it's for the better, well, of course, because not only the visual of the windows will change, the UX, so the user experience will also improve, and the accessibility too. So we're planning to add some long view features like key remapping, and things to help people with disabilities. So I think it's something that was long due, and pretty happy that it's coming soon.
Have you got any other exciting maybe gameplay features that you can share with us, or are you keeping things a bit close to your chest for now?
I don't think wow things to tell you. We're getting to a point where we have all those puzzle pieces that we want to assemble to create more strategy. So this is something we're gonna work, especially related to the estate. So the role of the estate will be improved. But visually, there's a new biomes, right? Is it in English biomes or biomes?
Biomes.
So So we will, you will see like different like type of vegetation and settings that will add to the immersion of the game. So that's what I can say for now.
That's exciting. I'm excited to see that because how it looks now is lovely. So the idea of getting like different plants and things is very exciting.
There's going to be a third layer of housing too that will be more densified. So this is something that we're going to make a huge step up in the housing generation, for instance. So this is very exciting things to come.
Thank you so much, Phil, and thank you to Ash as well for joining me today to talk about Foundation, probably my favorite city builder out there right now. It's available in early access on Steam now, so go check it out. And don't forget that there is more fun stuff like this coming from EGX Digital for the next however many days. EGX Digital and PAX Online bringing you the biggest digital gaming event of the year. So go to paxegx.com for more. I've been Alice Bell from Rock Paper Shotgun, and thank you once again to Phil and to Ash from Polymorph Games for showing us all about Foundation. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Alice.